Kunja Vihari Shishirada Madhava Ki Jai. Shishirada Sham Sundar Ki Jai. Festival of the Holy Name Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Today, I remember last class we gave, one point that came out is that if we become, a way to curb our pride is to think that because I have a material body, I'm full number one. You remember that? We're talking about, become so proud, and what do we become proud of? We become proud of the beauty of our body, or our talents, or our intelligence. And actually the body is a symbol of our rebellion against Krishna. It's also a symbol of our foolishness, that after all these lives, we haven't come to the right conclusion. So this morning, I decided, because a devotee asked me, he's going to be studying Maya. He's going to be teaching about Maya, and so he asked me some questions about Maya. So the 2 chapters in Jaiva Dharma about Maya. Interesting topic. And one of the things Bhaktivinoda Thakur said was that, he said, Maya is a therapist. I never heard that before. Maya is a therapist. So, what kind of therapy? I think it's called suffering therapy. Maybe you could call it torture therapy. We have a meeting at 9:30. That's yeah. I thought it was at 8 o'clock, but the meeting's at 9:30. And if the meeting's at 8 o'clock, someone's going to call me and say, "Where are you?" Yeah. I said I wasn't going to give class today. So we fooled everyone, because I just got a message that the meeting was at 9:30. So, Radhapriya, you can put out a message and say, actually, class. We are having class. So, so it was described. The Jaiva Dharma is a novel, and it's in the form of a devotee named Brajanath asking questions, or Raghunath Das Babaji, a guru. So, he's asking the same questions we ask, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he knows what everyone asks, so he asks the same questions, like, well, is that the only way we can learn? Why do we have to suffer? And why did Krishna give us independence if he knows we're going to misuse it? And all these questions were asked. And the answer, as we have discussed many times, is the answer is yes. This is just by nature, the living entity has independence. If you don't have independence, you're not alive. So if you're alive, you have independence. That's the meaning of it. And if you misuse your independence and you forget Krishna, by nature, when you forget Krishna, there's suffering. It can't be any other way. That's the nature of the suffering. And the ways in which you forget Krishna, under the modes of nature, depending on the modes of nature, will determine how much suffering you experience. So I said that's an inevitable process. And also, the only process of living entity coming to any sense of understanding their position, who they are as spiritual beings, is through suffering. It's the only way it'll work. It can't work any other way, because once we come into Maya, our knowledge is covered, and we become covered by various forms of ignorance, and we become covered by hate and envy and anger, illusion as well. So we're very covered. And to break through that, the ignorance is so strong, and to break through that covering, it doesn't happen unless the living entity becomes somewhat spiritually inclined. It looks in that direction and has some openness. And you all know, if you if you have done anything to spread Krishna consciousness, you all know that if you meet people who don't have some realization that the world isn't perfect, or that we are suffering in some way, those people they don't open up to Krishna consciousness. They're like blocked, isn't it? You can't get through to them because they think, well, things are fine. And a lot of times we see in Christianity that they glorify God for the pleasures they experience in this world. They're not really, we in a sense would glorify Krishna if he created difficulties for us that brought us to our sense. Thank you, Krishna, I was so stupid. You put me in this situation. I had some difficulty, some suffering, something, and now because of that, I turn towards you. So that's the point. The ignorance is so strong, and it's the suffering that causes one to start breaking through that ignorance. It's actually a fact. Start asking, why, and just analyzing, looking at it. Otherwise, the nature of ignorance is that you think you're happy even though you're not. That's the problem. And so if someone says, I'm happy, it means they're still being influenced by ignorance. If someone says there must be greater happiness, it means he's breaking out of it. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes on to explain, well, in answer to the question, well, can yoga, can knowledge, can austerity, can sacrifice, can charity, etc., cause bhakti? And he said those only can be helpful once you're doing bhakti, but they don't cause bhakti. And so what causes bhakti is the association of devotees, especially the pure devotees. And he said, but not every living entity will get that association, or if they get it, will take advantage of it. And so, when Prabhupada was asked why we were so fortunate to become devotees, Prabhupada said, I created your good fortune. And what he meant was that if you associate with a pure devotee and you engage in devotional service, then that engagement in devotional service, it builds up your so-called bank balance, and then you can become a devotee. Your bank balance of bhakti credits. And you have enough bhakti credits, you can actually give yourself to Krishna. So anywhere you study in Shastra, and when the question is asked, what causes bhakti? The answer is always, it's the pure devotee. And you might say, well, don't we have to play a part in that? And yeah, we do. And that's the point of Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying that it's through the suffering that the living entity will finally turn towards Krishna, want to know Krishna, through trying to understand why he's suffering or just trying to get out of the suffering. So when the living entity is at that point, when he's willing to turn towards God, then he can take advantage, or at least potentially, he can take advantage of the association of devotees. And so when I was reading this, I was thinking about something that I had spoken about last week. I don't know if you were at the lecture. I don't think it was a morning lecture. But we were talking about how important it is for us to become Krishna conscious, because people make advancement by the association of devotees. And the more, I think it was in the class, it may have been a class in Spanish, the more Krishna conscious we become, the more Krishna conscious the people around us become. And the only way someone gets bhakti is through the devotee. And so I don't want to put pressure on you or anything, but there's a lot of pressure on you. There's a lot of pressure on us, because if we don't become Krishna conscious, we can't really help anybody. You can give them the process, you can preach and so on. But ultimately, it's through the association of devotees that we advance. And so the more we're advanced, the more people who associate with us will advance. So if a person is pious, if a person is understands that they're suffering, then Maya's therapy has worked on them. Then they're in a position where they're ready for Krishna consciousness. And that you've probably seen, as we all have. Many, many sincere people come to Krishna consciousness, and they really want to know Krishna, and they're so sincere, and they really understand the nature of this world through their own experience. They've suffered, and they have some spiritual knowledge. And then, but you find later on, they give up Krishna consciousness. Maybe they engage in material activities. Maybe they engage in very sinful activities, and you wonder why. Well, you know, it doesn't end when you get the association of devotees. It doesn't end when you get Maya's therapy through suffering and you realize you're suffering. That's actually where it begins. The problem is that Prabhupada once said, he said, Maya is right behind Krishna. So if you understand what is Maya, you have some understanding, you want to be a devotee and you get out of Maya, and you engage in Krishna consciousness, that's good. But Maya's right behind, and as soon as you slow down, then Maya's like, oh, now I can catch you. So it's not enough to know. As we all know, it's not enough to know. And it's not enough to have the association, and it's not enough to be pious, or it's not enough to be raised in a religious family. These things are all helpful. But unfortunately, we can always turn away from Krishna, even though we have the opportunity. We can turn away from the pure devotee. We can neglect his instructions. And then Maya will come. And the nature of Maya, she has two natures, and it's interesting. And it's actually quite concerning and actually scary if you think about it. One nature is described as avaranatmika. Avaranatmika means covered. What does covered mean? It means your knowledge is covered. And Abritam Gyanam Etena, verse from Bhagavad Gita, Abritam Gyana Etena. Their knowledge is covered, why? Nityavarinam, by their eternal enemy in the form of kama. Comes in kama rupena. It comes in the form of lust. What form does the enemy come in? It comes in the form of lust. Kama rupena konteya. Varinam, your greatest enemy. And so, you all know, because we all have experience of being covered. If we become overcome by lust, we become covered. What does that mean? Forget. We forget. Have you ever been overcome by lust and you actually forgot you were a devotee? You forgot your spirit soul? You forgot the four regulative principles? Yeah, it happens. It's amazing. It's like when we dream, we forget we're devotees sometimes. Excuse me, these are amino acids. They're really good for the mind. Of course, as I joke, your mind has to be operational for these to work. If your mind's not operational, these probably won't work. So I'm sure you've all experienced this, that sometimes in the heat of the moment when you become angry or lustful or greedy or envious, it's like there's this covering. In every purport, in every shloka you ever memorized, it's like it's covered. It's like spiritual amnesia. You just forget everything. So that's concerning that Maya can do that. So Prabhupada's saying Krishna's there, and if you forget Krishna, Maya comes, and then Maya covers. And it's like if someone just throws a cloth over you and just pulls you, and you have no idea where you are. Something like that. But I think the better analogy is amnesia. She just makes you forget. Because the enemy of Maya is knowledge. Because once you know your spirit soul, once you know you're a servant, then how can Maya really do anything? She calls you up. You want to, go and do something. You say, "No, I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm not this body. I don't need to enjoy this world." If she can make you forget that you're a servant, if she can make you forget you're this body, then when she calls you up and asks you to go out, you'll say, "Sure, let's go out," because you have no reason not to go out because you've forgotten. So that's one aspect, which is, just it's important to know that if I forget Krishna, I could forget everything. It's possible I could forget everything I know about bhakti. The other problem is, there's a lot of problems actually. Maybe this is not the only other one, but the other problem is, if you want to forget Krishna, if that desire begins, if Maya implants that desire that you want to forget Krishna, or that desire comes within your own consciousness, then anything Krishna conscious is going to get in the way, and so you don't want it. It's like you don't want to be reminded that you're not the body, right? I want to go out and enjoy. Don't tell me I'm not the body. I want to go out and enjoy. Don't tell me I'm a servant of Krishna. I want to go out and enjoy. Don't tell me to chant Hare Krishna. I don't want to hear it. So Maya facilitates that. You don't have to hear it. I'll just cause you to forget it. And so there's a principle that operates there. And sometimes when we look at this, we say, well, why would Krishna do all this? We're doing it. We're causing this to happen. I don't want to think of Krishna. I don't want to remember Krishna. Right? So Krishna says, okay, if that's the way you want it, what does Krishna do? Krishna says, well, if that's the way you want it, I'll help you. If you want to try to be happy in this world, it doesn't help to remember I'm servant of Krishna. That kind of spoils it. If you want to be happy with material life and sense gratification, it doesn't help to remember that you should do austerity and sacrifice, that you should control your senses. It doesn't help to know that you won't be happy unless you control your senses. That just rains on your parade. It ruins everything. It's like if I go to a party and you're all drinking and dancing and I say, this is just going to make you miserable, Get out of here, you're ruining our party. So because we want to enjoy, this is so interesting. Because we want to enjoy, and Krishna will reciprocate with that desire, he has to create an environment in which we can forget certain things. I mean, really, think about it. If you want to create an ideal environment for material enjoyment, you can't. You have to forget that you're not the body. You have to forget that there's old age, disease, and death. Because if you walk around thinking, oh, there's old age, disease, and death, how are you actually going to be happy? A devotee may walk around, oh, old age, disease, and death, this world is bad, blah, 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 everything is bad, blah, blah, just suffering, blah, blah, blah. But that actually makes him happy because it helps him become detached, right? Sometimes you see devotees like, blah, 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 blah. Isn't it? Yeah, everything's bad, everything's miserable, there's COVID, and there's governments, and weather, and there's fires here, and there's protest here, and blah, 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 blah. And after they say that, they just go on their day, and you're thinking, well, if someone that negative must be miserable, and they're totally happy. It just increased their detachment. They want to remember how bad it is. It helps them. But if you want to enjoy the world, you don't want to remember how bad it is. That will ruin everything. So So if we come to the point where we want to enjoy, Krishna says, okay, I'll cover you so you'll forget that you're spirit soul, you forget that you'll get old, you forget that you'll die, and you'll believe that you can actually be happy here. You'll just be in the moment, thinking that enjoyment is around the corner, and I'll cover all your knowledge in a way that it will not impede your desire to enjoy. Otherwise, if there's knowledge there, it will just tell you, shut up, I don't want to hear that. Smoking's bad for you. Shut up, get out of here, I want to smoke. No, but it causes lung cancer. Get out of here, stop bothering me. But this cigarette could kill you. I know, just don't tell me, I don't want to hear it, get out of here. You'd rather have someone say, hey, smoking's cool, I'm going to smoke too. That's what you want to hear. So basically, that's what's going on, which is, it's interesting to look at it from the point of view that if I'm not careful, that's what may happen to me. And if, sometimes you have difficulty understanding, why would so-and-so, who was such a good devotee, leave? And now, we heard that so-and-so is doing such and such things that are unimaginable that so-and-so could have done. So-and-so did such and such. Yeah, okay. That'll be the name of this class. So-and-so did such and such, and I don't believe it. And you're wondering, how could someone who is so Krishna conscious do those things? It doesn't make sense. Now, when you understand that Maya covers, then it makes sense. When you understand that this person must have wanted it, Maya covers with various illusions, then it makes sense. And he just forgot. And then if you understand that someone who wants to enjoy Maya wants to forget Krishna consciousness, because if he remembers, he can't enjoy. He finds a beautiful girl. He asks her on a date, and she's like, practically from another planet. He's madly falling in love. He doesn't want to read Bhagavad Gita at that moment. He doesn't want to read, the body is just a bag of mucus, bile, and air, covering a skeleton. Doesn't want to hear that. That would rain on his parade. That would ruin all the fun, right? So when a person falls into that state, then they consciously want to avoid anything Krishna conscious if they fall that low. So then, what's the hope? And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, well, the only hope for a person in that situation is suffering. It's the only way they can get out of the illusion. Unfortunately. But the way he's explaining it is that we should see all suffering as a gift from Krishna to bring us back to him, because it's the only way we could do it. It's the only way it's going to happen. So that was... There's much more discussed in that chapter, but I just thought... I actually didn't know if I want to continue talking about the spiritual world or pick up another topic, because now if we start talking about the spiritual world with everything we've discussed about death and the spiritual world, we would have to get into some pretty esoteric stuff. And I don't know if you're all ready for it. It's basically reading Brahma Samhita about the nature of the spiritual world. Probably you're all saying, yeah, let's read, let's find out all the esoteric stuff about the spiritual world. Well, let me know. We have to take a vote, because we could talk about the spiritual world and we could talk about Maya. Maya's interesting. I mean, you need to know her tricks, right? Otherwise she could pull the curtain over you. As we say, pull the wool over your eyes. Krishna Karshani has a question, but I'm just going to go back and see if anyone else. Yes. Vrindavan Leela. Vrindavan Leela said, I'm sick now, maybe it's a good time for me to become serious. Well, when I get sick, or when I go to the dentist and they're drilling my teeth open, I have one thought. I was stupid to come and choose a material body. That's what I think whenever I get really sick. I think, yep, this is the consequence. Or any kind of misery that happens. You want to blame your suffering on somebody. I was just thinking, Vrindavan, I was thinking this morning, an interesting thought. If you believe in karma, would you sue anybody? And the right answer would be no, because you understand that that's a karmic event. Has a devotee sued anybody? I bet they have. So, we want to think straight, okay, there's a misery. Okay, I created it. It's coming to me. Yeah. Even if I don't, I think, well, maybe I created it, but that person's an idiot also. Still, if you never came to this world, you wouldn't be dealing with it, right? So, you might say, well, how do I know there's not some other karmic influence and, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. All right, and, maybe it's Donald Trump's fault and I didn't do anything wrong. All right, whatever. But still, because we made this choice to take on, to enjoy, then we take on a material body. And when you take on a material body and mind, unless you're a Paramhamsa and transcendental, you're going to suffer. You can blame it on yourself. You can blame it on another person. You can blame it on Donald Trump. You can blame it on the mosquitoes, the weather. Blame it on whoever you want. But the point is, if we didn't turn our back on Krishna, we wouldn't be here now. As you know, as you've been told, not everyone is stupid enough to choose to come to the material world. You've heard that before, right? We are amongst the chosen few, well, not chosen. We are amongst the few fools who have decided to come here. So don't be so proud of your beauty, intelligence, ability, and so forth. Aristocracy, birth, education. Yeah, we're amongst the fools who decided to come here. So these are the kind of thoughts we can have when we're suffering physically or mentally or emotionally. Like, I made a choice once upon a time, and it was a bad choice, and now these are the consequences of that choice. And if I'm smart, I will realize this, and I will do everything I can to end this cycle, and also help other people end this cycle. I think, to me, that's the common sense way to think, or the obvious. Whereas Prabhupada said, so obvious you could miss it. Yeah, that's one of one of my favorite things that Prabhupada said. It's so obvious you could miss it, because that, to me, describes how Maya works. It's like right in front of your eyes. Hello, everyone. we have this very sarcastic statement. I don't know if you have it in your country, in America. Americans are, if you want to learn how to be sarcastic, just, come to America. Well, actually, go to New York. That'd probably be the best place for it. If someone is kind of dull-headed, not very smart, doesn't get it, then some people will call them an airhead. Like, there's just air in there. There's no brain. But isn't it a fact, like when Prabhupada's saying, it's so obvious you could miss it. Yeah, if you're an airhead, it's staring you in the face and you don't see it, right? So there's birth, old age, disease, and death staring us in the face. Do you see it? No. See what? Birth, old age, disease, and death? No, I didn't see it. What are you talking about? I'm going to live forever. So, yeah. So that's what Prabhupada means. The world is created in such a way, it's like, hello, obviously you're going to die. Hello, obviously things are not perfect. Hello, there's a lot of suffering. Hello, hello, hello. You know, we can put in so many things. No, I don't see it. You know, they have this saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. And what that means is you're focused on one thing, you're focused on a tree, and that's all you see. You don't see the whole forest. So it's like, obviously you're in a forest. I don't see a forest. I just see a tree. So this is the expertise of Maya. A lot of times when we're trying to share Krishna consciousness, we get frustrated because sometimes we're explaining something to someone. And we do a good job of explaining it. We present it with all common sense and logic. We're very clear. We've broken it down. You know, we feel like, wow, this was a good explanation. Even a child could understand. And the person says, no, I don't agree. Or they say, I don't understand, or I can't understand this. Yeah, so that's proof of it. It's Krishna consciousness is so obvious. No, what Prabhupada said, what did he say? It's common sense. You could miss it. Yeah, Krishna consciousness is so obvious you could miss it, or so common sense that you could miss it. Yeah, I think obvious. So that's Maya's doing. It's like something staring you in the face, and she won't let you see it. You know, have you ever seen that? Of course you've seen it. Boy meets girl. Boy and girl fall in love. They're the most incompatible boy and girl that God has ever created. All they like is having sex with one another. They can't get along. They fight all the time. And everybody's thinking, this is the disaster of the century if you two stay together. There's only one problem. Everyone in the universe sees it except them. Hello? We have this other sarcastic statement in America. The lights are on, but nobody's home. That means, you know, he's awake, but his brain's not on. It doesn't work. So, you know, it's like obvious. Even the dogs and the cats know this relationship's not going to work out, but they don't know. They don't see the obvious. So that's the point of me talking about this, is that I'm hoping you realize that being in Maya is dangerous, because if you allow yourself to get into it, she can bamboozle you, really confuse you, cover you. Bamboozle is just like bewilderment on steroids, basically. That's what it means. You know, just like spun around, you know, we spin you around 100 times and then we let you go, and you're like, you don't know where you are, you don't know what happened. So Maya can do that to you, spin you around. And so it becomes so obvious you miss it. And that's basically how the whole world is working. And don't think that because I'm a devotee, that can't happen to me. It can. Be careful. So that's my little summary of what I read this morning. And not ascertaining what I wanted to talk about, if we were going to continue with talking about Radharani or the spiritual world, or start a new topic. I actually came to class today without any agenda. But then I thought, well, I should share what I read. So, Krishna Karshani says, she's asking if I'm understanding properly. Maya is covering us because we desire, so yes. That's not her initiative. She is answering for our desires, yes. Or she's just testing us, even if we want Krishna only. Prabhupada said Krishna will test us. He never said Maya will test us. You can see it as Maya testing. This devotee who's doing this course on Maya. So amongst the questions, he said, who created Maya? And thinking about the question, my answer was, we did. of course, Maya is an expansion of Radharani. Radharani is the personification of the Swarup Shakti, or Hladini Shakti, Krishna's internal potency, the blissful nature of Krishna's internal potency. And then for management of the material world, she expands into the external energy. So she then personifies that as Durga, Maya, Parvati. So we can say, oh, she's a creation of Radharani. Okay. But if we didn't want to be separate from Krishna, there would be no need for a material world, and there would be no need for Maya. Who creates the job for the superintendent of the prison house? Who actually creates the job? You'll say, well, the government creates the job. Not exactly. The criminals create the job. Because if there were no criminals, there would be no job called superintendent of prison, because there'd be no prison. So Maya, superintendent, creates the world. And so what Maya does is she facilitates the living entity's desire. And it can't be facilitated in the spiritual world. It has to be facilitated somewhere else. And Krishna, being all-knowing, smarter than we are, even though sometimes we say, why did Krishna do it that way? Why didn't he do it this way? We think we know more. As a sign of our foolishness. We question why Krishna does things. So Maya creates the material energy, and then she has a trident, right? Adi Bhotik, Adi Daivik, Adi Yatmik. Get the point? Did you get the point? You're not the enjoyer. Did you get the point? Adi Bhotik, Adi Daivik, Adi Yatmik. Did you get the point? You're not the enjoyer. You came here, it's like you came here to enjoy in a place infested with misery. Hello, do you understand? Anybody home? So, when you go to Bhagavad Gita, what's the Bhagavad Gita trying to say? Tell me what the Bhagavad Gita says in one sentence, 2 sentences, 3 sentences. Yeah. You're not the enjoyer, you're the sufferer, basically. Krishna's the enjoyer, I'm the sufferer. What else is new? So, now, we all know, because we have experience, how difficult it is to 24/7 realize that Krishna is the enjoyer and I'm not. Right? You ever see something you really like to eat, and you really don't need to eat it? It's not even healthy, and you're not even that hungry, and you eat it anyway? Raise your hand if you've done that. Raise your hand if you've done that 100 times. Raise your hand if you've done that 1,000,000 times. When you become a devotee and you start doing austerity and you realize you're not the body, you're going to do that less, or you're going to stop doing it. This is like, why do it? It has nothing to do with bhakti. It's not going to help me. So everything changes when you become a devotee. Now, here's the thing. That's another American expression. Here's the thing. And this is very interesting. Now, you're all probably sitting there thinking, but, I don't realize I'm not my body, so I'm in a jeopardized position, and Maya could attack. But that's not entirely true. Because if you act like you're not the body, which means chanting japa, because if you're the body, why would you chant japa? That would be like a waste of time, isn't it? If you're the body, why would you be in this class? Because what does this class have to do with being the body? This is just time wasted, where you could be like eating chocolate ice cream and watching, kittens on the internet. But you're hearing Bhagavatam. If you don't realize you're not the body, why are you trying to help other people realize they're not the body? Why do you get out of bed and you're still tired? But you look at your watch, oh, it's time to get up. I have to chant. Why do you do all these things? Because there is some realization, maybe it's not full, because there is some realization that you're not the body. And it works both ways. And if you act that way, it will reinforce the realization that you're not the body. And so by acting as if we're not the body, we're protected from Maya bewildering us into thinking we are the body and then in enticing us into sense gratification. So every day that you do devotional service, you're actually reaffirming you're not the body. Isn't that nice to know? And you're asking me, well, on what authority can you say that? I'll tell you a story. This is my authority. Well, aside from my general realization, but one devotee asked Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, if we go out on book distribution, he was a book distributor, and this was during the height of book distribution, where practically all the brahmacharis were doing book distribution. In ISKCON, most brahmacharis were doing it. If we go out every day on book distribution, will we become self-realized? And Prabhupada said, you already are self-realized, otherwise how could you go out every day? What an interesting answer, right? Totally unexpected. Devotee was thinking, I'm not self-realized, I think I'm a man. And Prabhupada saying, no, but you're going out, sacrificing your whole day for telling other people about Krishna. That means you realize you're not the body. Otherwise, you couldn't do it. Isn't that interesting? So the point is, as long as you act as if you're not the body, it will keep you somewhat in touch with that reality and all the realities of Krishna consciousness so that you can't become bewildered, or not bewildered much, or not bewildered for long, because you remember, oh, I'm not the body, I shouldn't be doing this. So that's important. So don't think, oh, I think I'm the body, I think I'm a woman, I think I'm a man, I think I'm 30, I think I'm 50, I think I'm smart, I think I'm stupid, all these things. That's there. But in addition to that, you're engaged in devotional service. And how could you do that unless you had some understanding, I'm not the body, I wouldn't be doing all these things. Correct? I guess if I do this, I'll become an Indian in my next life. I should probably not do that. Yamaraj, why did you make me an Indian in this life? Because you like to do this. We thought you like India. We make you Indian. So, of course, being born in India is very good. It's a pious birth. But now, being born anywhere is a great benefit, isn't it? Okay. Because Krishna is everywhere. Okay. KB Gardner, Hare Krishna. I have heard that because Sri Krishna wants us to be happy, sometimes he will not remove some attachment to Maya. Because even though we may desire it, he knows that removing it will make us unhappy because we are not prepared. Would you agree with this? If it's not an impediment for your bhakti, yeah. In other words, Krishna knows you need a husband, nice children, money, house, nice job that you like, this and that, You like nice weather, you end up in Florida, whatever. That's true. Because ultimately, Krishna wants to make his devotees happy, materially also, but he doesn't do it when it's going to be detrimental. So if Krishna knows you can utilize these things, and sometimes you need these things actually to become detached. So he may give them to you so that you get them out of your blood, so to speak. It's like, okay, I don't need them anymore because I've had them. Have you ever had that experience? Like something is so new and fresh and you're just so excited about it, and it's like, wow, I got this. I never had this before. It's amazing. And and then after you use it for a few days, a few months, a few years, whatever, and you just see it's just another piece of software. It's another gizmo. It's another gadget. I mean, it's nice, but it's nothing special. I could live without it. Isn't it? And so, yeah, that may happen. The thing is also, there may be so many things that we want, but when we become Krishna conscious, then we decide, okay, I want these things, but then I think, how can I use them for Krishna? And then Krishna gives them to us because we can use them. So that's there also. And so the other problem is, he might give them to us. You might say, well, maybe I've seen them given to people who don't use them, but then they use it to commit suicide. They hang themselves with that. One devotee said something I really liked because I had this experience. He said, it's like, he said, if Krishna wants to give you a lot of things, if it just happens, just accept it, that's what he wants. So sometimes it happens like that. You don't even want, and then you get. It's just like, okay. I told that story once. My wife's mother, she helped us buy a house like 25 years ago, 27 years ago maybe. It was our first house. And my wife decorated the house very nicely, and the house wasn't expensive. It was at a time when the economy was still reasonable. But it was a really nice house. And we thought, it's not expensive, nice home, good investment. And then she fixed it up really nicely. And then I was thinking of that statement. It's just like this really nice house. I had a recording studio, we had an attic and we fixed the attic up. So it was just like this huge recording studio in the attic. Had an office, I had my own bedroom. She had this huge bedroom. Our daughter was just born, so they had this big bedroom. We had a guest room. We had a separate room, which was a dining room. We had a breakfast room. We didn't even use the dining room. We used the dining room as the temple, I think. It was 2 stories, so I was sitting in the house and I was thinking, you know where I was living before I met my wife? This is really funny. She always jokes about it. I had never told this before. I don't think anybody knows. I was outside America and I came back to America in 1992. I was in Mauritius. I had finished my service there and I'd come back to America, and I joined with Gunagai Maharaj. He had a program in Washington, D.C., where they would go out every day and do kirtan. Tens of thousands of high school students would come there every day and chant with us, and not 10,000 would chant with us, but many would chant and dance with us. And then after that season, we went to Texas, and we would preach around Texas. And Maharaj had converted a school bus into a mobile temple. And he had a room in the back. And then I had a room. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the size of this room. The room was 6 feet long, because that's how, it needed 6 feet to lay down to sleep. And I'm going to do this with my hands. The bed was about this wide. You see, that's like maybe 2.5 feet. That's about, easy could slip off. The bed was this wide, and the standing room was about this wide. So the whole room was like this wide. So basically, it was a closet. And my wife jokes, she often jokes, she says, you know, if you never met me, you'd still probably be living in a closet, which may be true. I like closets, actually. I like small spaces. I don't know what it is. I was in San Diego Temple. There was a closet sunroom, and I liked chanting in there. It was really small. I like small spaces. Anyway, so I went from being a closet Krishna to a nice house Krishna. So this was a nice house. I mean, you know, for a rich person, it wouldn't be like, what are you, it's not such a great house. It's just, you know, it's just a house. But for me, it was like, wow, this is a really, really nice home. So I was sitting in the home, and I was thinking of this thing this devotee said. He said, if Krishna wants to give this to you, just accept it. Because I was rejecting it. I didn't even like it. I felt uncomfortable in the home. It was like, it's too nice. Like, I don't need this. And then I just surrendered. I said, yeah, if, you know, use it as necessary. If Krishna wants, you know, so we stayed there for a while. We sold it. We made a little money. If Krishna wants to give, you know, and then we moved to Alachua. There's another really interesting thing, which some of you know about Alachua. Alachua is a small town. It's actually a farming town. So you have the city of Alachua with like, I don't know, 300-400 homes, maybe, something like that. You know, not a lot of houses. And then outside the city, you have, it's outside the city limits, it's farmland. You see, these are big farms, 100 acres, forest everywhere. But over time, they allowed the farmers to subdivide and put up homes. So you see more homes now than farms, or equal amounts of homes and farms, maybe more homes than farms. And so they passed a law that you could subdivide into 5-acre plots, nothing less, because they realized that the government realized we only have an infrastructure for so many citizens. So if we allow them to subdivide into small plots, then there'll be too many people living here, and we'll have to upgrade the infrastructure, more schools, more plumbing, more electrical. You know, we can't, I guess they're not able to do that. So they passed this law that a home has to be built on 5 acres. Let me try to do something with the sun. So, as some of you have seen, our house is on 5 acres, which is weird, isn't it? To live on 5 acres. I mean, it's like 5 acres means it's 200 yards, like 200 meters one direction and 100 meters the other direction. It's like, why do you need that much? And our neighbors live on the same. So we have 10 acres. It takes like, if you want to walk around the whole thing, it takes like 10 minutes just to walk around our property. That's crazy, right? And you know, you look out the window, and you just see trees and grass. That's all, anywhere you look, you know. It's like, okay, Krishna, you know, all right, this is what you gave me. You know? I'm waiting for the beach house. He hasn't given that yet. That might be next on the list, right? So that kind of always saved me, because actually I like things simple. You know, my wife's right. If I never met her, I'd still be living in a closet. I'd be the original closet Krishna. So, but KB, if you can't use it, Krishna will take it away. Or if you want to enjoy it, he'll let you hang yourself with it. So, but he knows what you need, he knows what you don't need, and he may not give you what you want because he knows it won't be good. So try to use everything in the spirit of renunciation. So now we have this nice home. It's not, you know, it's not like anything special, but nice property. And next door to us is 10 acres. Next door is 10. Next door is 10. Behind the 10, there's like 20. Behind the 20, there's like 50. And then we have 130 30-acre forest next to us. I mean, that's it's, if I walk for 2 to 3 minutes, I'll be at the forest. And it's 120 acres of forest. That's kind of a nice place to live, right? You think? Okay, Krishna, if that's what you want, then I'll use it in your service. That's the attitude. Okay, Ankush is going to ask, how to remove negativity in yourself, associate with positive people. Ankush, I've probably given lots of lectures on that topic, but I can't think offhand the title of the lectures. Let's go to my website and search negativity. Does anybody know? Can remember any lectures I gave on negativity? I can tell you one thing, although this, I would say, a great way to remove negativity is just be a good devotee, then you'll be blissful. That's kind of a simple answer. But if you're talking about psychologically, there's a reality that you have to understand, is that if you look at the negative in everything, you're going to be negative. So if you have I'm trying to get rid of the sun, wow, and I can't get the blinds to close. All right, I'm trying to see where it's coming from. We used to have this problem. I guess the seasons are changing. I have to sit a certain way. Hold on. That didn't help. Let's try this. That didn't help. That helps. Now I have to figure out where I'm going to put this. This is now on my keyboard. Well, it helps a little bit. Okay. So, I have to move this. So, some people have a proclivity to be negative. It's just their nature, they focus on the negative, right? But you do have a choice, believe it or not. And if you focus on negative, guess what's going to happen? You probably never guess, but I'll give you a hint. Maybe you'll become negative, more negative. Yeah, right, you're right, you will. So, here's a thought, Ankush. This thought could become like an atomic blast in your consciousness. It's not so much about controlling your mind, it's about what you put your attention on. Because, you talk about controlling the mind, and as soon as you talk about controlling the mind has in the next minute it has another 20 thoughts that just kind of came out of nowhere. Where'd that thought come from? But you can't control which thought you put attention on, isn't it? Sometimes you can't control what you're thinking. It's just, I was the other day thinking of something. I can't remember what it was, but I was thinking, why am I thinking of that? It's it's totally irrelevant to everything in my life. Or I was thinking about something that I had no connection with or experience with. It didn't make any sense. I'm sure you've had that problem. Coming from another lifetime or who knows what. But where you put your attention, that's the key. And I think a lot of us don't realize that. We're trying to control the thoughts. What is it? Thought, control, put a control valve on each thought. Control thought. Got you over there. I've got you over there. We're pegging you on that board, putting you in the box. Where do you put your attention on? So if I have a negative thought, but I put my attention on something else, then I don't have to worry about the negative thought, right? So Ankush, what do you put your attention on? The negative or the positive? That is the question. Only Ankush can ask. But at least you know what you put your attention on is going to affect you. Okay. In the UK, they have a more polite way of putting someone down. We just say airhead. They say, he's not the sharpest tool in the toolbox. That's kind of a polite way of saying he's an idiot. Because it doesn't sound like you're saying he's, an idiot. He's just not so, there's other tools that are sharper. Yeah, that is so British. Oh my Govinda, so polite. That is so, it's such a proper way of telling someone they're an idiot. You're British, you guys, I love you guys. You're so proper. What did I do? Deepa says, what did I do to come to this world? You know it happens all the time. Well, I can't get my head around this. Deepa, you're not the only one who can't get their head around the idea that we were in the spiritual world and we fell. The conclusion is, dun, dun, dun. What's the answer? I think the answer is if you can't get your head around it, it's okay. This is how Bhaktivinoda Thakur described it in Jaiva Dharma. So I'll make it simple because then this is not so like, but what if? He said, the living entities come in the glance of Mahavishnu. The living entities are Tatastha. In that region of Tatastha, which means situated in between the material and spiritual, they can glance to the spiritual and go there. They can glance to the material and go there. So, when we add the concept that I was in the spiritual world with Krishna and Leela, then we're like, oh my God, this doesn't make sense. If we say, I was just in the middle and I made a choice, then that's like, okay, I was stupid for whatever reason, I made the wrong choice. That's a little easier to accept. So the fact of the matter is, if you study Shastra, it seems like we're getting both ideas. And if you study from one angle, it seems very clear that, Prabhupada said we're in the spiritual world of Krishna. If you study from another angle, it seems like very clear, no, we never were. So this is like maybe one of those philosophical points that'll kind of be unresolved eternally. Of course, those who say we never were, there's nothing to resolve. It's just, according to them, it's what the Shastra says. Others say, no, but Prabhupada said right here, Bhagavatam, 4th canto, my old friend, I'm your old friend, the super soul, and you've left me and forgot me, and so. Anyway, if you have trouble reconciling the fact that you fell from the spiritual world, which most of us do, then, as Prabhupada said, you know what Bhaktivinoda Thakur said about it? He said, actually, you can't understand it. That's why we go back and forth. Was I with Krishna? Wasn't I? But if I was with Krishna, how this? And, but if I wasn't with Krishna, why that? And okay. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, don't worry, you won't understand it. But I think the thing we need to understand is we made a conscious decision to leave Krishna. And that is the worst thing we ever did. And to become Krishna conscious, you have to make a conscious decision to serve Krishna. Right? Correct? You make a conscious decision to serve Krishna. Now you're all wondering, what is in that room behind him? I'm going to close the door, then you'll stop wondering. Okay, that's where my studio is. Looks clean. And you're wondering, why is that iMac sitting on the table? It's for sale if you want to buy it. Because Sita David bought me a new one for our music projects. and this is the old one that's too slow to take up our new music project. So there it is. Or if someone has some service and needs it, then there it is. Come over and get it. Okay. Deepa, when you discuss this topic of how Maya works, then you realize you don't really need to even understand, how you could have gotten here, or why, or whatever. You just understand that when you have that desire, this is how Maya works. And then you understand when you have the desire to serve Krishna, this is how Krishna works. So it's like which way you want to look. And whatever way you look, then the machines start. It's like, imagine there's two machines. And you look that way, and this machine, it just turns on. Vroom, 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 just by looking at it. Then you look the other way, the machine turns on. So that's basically what we're doing. We look to Maya, she comes, covers you, and the other potencies throws you into illusion, plays all their tricks on you, makes you forget that you're the body, that you're not the body, etc. And then you turn to Krishna, that machine goes on, and then you understand all the spiritual truths, you get spiritual inspiration, and so forth. Yes? That makes sense? That's all you need to know. Okay. Krishna Karshani says, what is the maybe I have this desire now to sing the questions. Must be something wrong with me. No, it means I'm a resident of the spiritual world. They don't talk, they only sing. What is the reason that a devotee who was Kesi and very much about Kesi after some time wants to be covered by Maya? Because it seems if a devotee is covered by Maya, that his or her desire, well, I think I answered the question all right already, didn't I? Oh, well, there's a couple of reasons, the ultimate answer is, what's the reason? The reason is the devotee wanted to. But sometimes the devotee may be, the story of Maharshi Bharat. You know the story of Maharshi Bharat? So there's a deer. Deer is running from a hunter. The deer is pregnant. The deer runs in the water, tries to save herself. When she jumps in the water, she has not a miscarriage. The doe comes out. She tries to swim and she dies. And there's this little doe. And so Maharshi Bharat is chanting along the river and he sees this helpless doe. He goes in the water, or if you're in a certain street of England, you would say wa'a. He goes in the wa'a, right? Is that right, Deepa? If you live on this street, you say water, and if you live on that street, you say wa'a. So, Hare Krishna. So, he goes in the wa'a. If you say that in America, everyone will say, you say, can I have some wa'a? And they'll say, what? I need some wa'a. I say, what do you need? And then if you realize the English pronunciation is water, then you turn off your British accent and say, I want some water. Oh, water, okay. So he goes in the water, he gets the dough. And so what happened was, he developed a relationship, he became really attached. And in the process, and I've never read in Bhagavatam how it describes this happened, but in the process, he was minimizing his sadhana. And then he completely minimized it, which is a synonym for stopping it. He stopped his sadhana completely. Due to attachment to a deer, go figure. I don't know, it's what happened. He just got attached to a deer, and I don't know, it was like taking care of the deer, and that was occupying his time. During his sadhana, he was taking care of the deer. So he didn't fall down directly. But what happened? When he was leaving the deer had disappeared, or the doe had disappeared, and he was looking for the doe. Where is she? Where is she? Or he. He was totally absorbed in the doe, and then he left his body at that point and became a deer in his next life. Right? So that's one way you could fall down. Right? You just become attached to something. It was circumstantial attachment. You know, when you think about it, there's probably unlimited ways you could fall down. But they fall into general categories. You allow yourself to become deviated from your sadhana. As a result of the deviation, you become attached to something. That attachment takes you more away from your Krishna consciousness. Eventually you stop your sadhana. The material attachments become stronger because they're already there. They're not like you're cultivating them, so to speak, you know. All the seeds are there. Oh yeah, you're watering them, sure. We have another example, Vaishnava aparad. Due to the offenses against Vaishnavas, someone's spiritual advancement, it just stops. It's just cut off, that's it. They stop. They give up their practices, their consciousness changes. If they offend their spiritual master, they offend Srila Prabhupada, that could be a disaster for their spiritual life. But I think for us, for this discussion, the main thing we have to be aware of is us, our own desire. You know, we have to... I was thinking this morning, you know, that the desire to enjoy is like a well that has no bottom. Because I'm sure you experience this, that you, as you advance in Krishna consciousness, you feel like you come to a point where nishta is like you're okay, you know. But even on the stage of nishta, the conditioning is so deep, you'll find old desires will come up. And so the expert devotee is very careful about what he allows himself to think about and what he allows himself to desire. And so I would say preserving and nurturing your creeper well, not allowing desires and attachments to become strong, not offending Vaishnavas, not allowing yourself to become deviated from your sadhana. And then the other thing, which is extremely important, and I see this as a big problem, is that for a lot of devotees, when they start to enter any of these processes that I've talked about, whether it's offending devotees or slacking in sadhana, focused on material desire and attachments, or even pursuing these attachments, one of the biggest problems I see is a lot of times devotees, they just sit back and they say, I can't do anything about this, which is totally wrong, totally false. You can always do something. Maybe they can't do what they think they should do, but there may be something else they can do. And so this is, I think, to me, this is like Maya's ultimate trap. She catches you, and you can see what she's doing. And while she's doing it to you, you say, there's nothing I can do about it. A lot of times I get letters, they're almost like letters in which devotees are crying about their problems. Is that I'm this, I smoke marijuana, I have illicit sex, I do this, I do that, I get up late, I try to chant, I don't. You know, it's like... And my first thought is, what are you doing about it? And of course the answer is, not much. Or I tried and it didn't work. In other words, they're not doing what they need to be doing to resolve the problem. That's very, very typical. And there may be different reasons why, but I think it's important for us. You know, it's not unusual to have problems, actually. It's quite normal. And I would say, you know, if you wrote me a letter, you know, you've been a devotee for 20 years and you wrote me a letter, said, I never had a problem in Krishna consciousness in 20 years. Then I would think either you're not aware of your problems or you're very advanced. Because if you're normal, you will have problems. That's the normal conditioned soul. So to me, it's not the problems are the problems. It's not doing anything about the problems or doing the wrong thing or doing things to aggravate the problem or running away from the problem without a solution or not admitting the problem. That's what the problem is. Having problems, it's like, what else is new? You don't have any problems, you're a liar or a pure devotee. Wow. What a t-shirt. It might be offensive to have a t-shirt like that. If you don't have problems, you're either a liar or a pure devotee. And, well, that's not even true, because Prabhupada had so many problems in spreading Krishna consciousness that he had to deal with. So, but we're talking about personal problems. So I think this is extremely important. A lot of times you're dealing with personal problems and you have them, and you just go day after day, just like, I have this problem, I'm so lazy. What is the use of telling yourself you're lazy? That doesn't do anything but make you lazy. Just do something to counteract the laziness. Oh, my sadhana is not good. It's so long, my sadhana's not good. Stop talking about how bad your sadhana is and do something. Anything, doesn't matter what. Just do something to make it better. You understand? It's such as, it's like sometimes I say, I talk about things and I say, it's sad that I have to say this. This is very fundamental. It's sad that we have to say these things, but it's important and it's true. And I've seen how if you can do this, you'll be in a really good state. Just like when you have a problem, when you have a difficulty, just think about it and ask yourself, what am I going to do? I can't just allow this to go on. It's true materially also. Maybe you're having financial problems and you're ignoring it and just, everything's on your credit card and the debts are going up and you don't want to think about it. The first question is, the first thing is to admit it's a problem. The next thing is, what can I do about it? Just let's do something. Let's start working on it. And if you do that, you'll see. You can rectify yourself. And you might say, oh, Prabhu, I have this problem which is insurmountable. Say, then you need help to fight the insurmountable. If the problem is on that level, you need help. So you're not going to do it yourself. You're going to have to do it in association. And there's such a tendency to give up. There's such a tendency to give up. In 5 minutes, I'm going to have to stop because I have a meeting at 9:30. There's such a tendency to give up when we run into problems. This like this, and ISKCON's that, and she's this, and he's that, and I'm this, and you're that. I give up. Never give up Krishna consciousness, but always find a solution. Maybe we have to give a class, Krishna Karshani, and 108 possible ways you could leave Krishna consciousness. Well, there's the front door, there's the back door, you could jump out the window. But usually, the best way to leave Krishna consciousness is with the blonde with blue eyes. Yeah, that's usually how it works. Just see the power of Maya and my form as woman who can bewilder even the greatest. The strongest of men, the greatest warriors, yeah. One God's brother told me, he said, Prabhupada said, Maya's work is easy. She just created the opposite sex, and then she went back to sleep. And it's like, okay, there'll be an illusion forever now. So, Ankri says, I experienced all material attachments taken away from me since I took initiation. Still I lament for these material attachments. Well, Krishna took them away because he knew they're not good for you. And when you become more renounced, they'll give them back. So if you want your material attachments back, Ankush, become detached from them all. That's the only way to get them back. That's the truth. And there's Bhaktivinoda all the way from Scotland, eh? We have from Kirti. What about Krishna's desire to fight, which can't be filled in the spiritual? So it seems he also needs the material creation. He's taking advantage of it. Not only for us, he's taking advantage of it. He could fight up there if he wanted. Material world can put all responsibility on the existence of the material world on Krishna, wouldn't it? No. He's just, it exists, but he wouldn't create it. Krishna wouldn't create the material world to have a good fight. Just, okay, Mahavishnu, let's get the motors running. I got a desire to fight, create universes. He'd be very happy. But because it exists, yeah, okay. But do you know that Krishna kills Kamsa in the spiritual world? Or at least that's what they say. Do you know that? Periodically he goes to Mathura and he has a big fight and kills him. And there's like a Kamsa that appears, like a Yoga Maya creates a Kamsa and he kills the Kamsa. Did you know that? And then there's no more Kamsa. Then he appears again a few months later, if there are months in the spiritual world, and then he kills him. Yeah, so that also goes on. The material world is our fault, any way you look at it. Any way you slice the bread, it's our fault. Suresh is very happy. He looks ecstatic. All the 8 ecstatic symptoms, right? Laughing and crying and voice choking up and hair standing on end. Wow, more than 8 ecstatic symptoms. The WA is a little like wa. Oh, I got it wrong. Where's the wa? Is that it? Better? John says, pulling the weeds around the creeper is harder than the weeds. Harder when the weeds are those secret prideful things for me, comparing self to others pridefully. How to pull weeds, nourish humility. The only way, this is a subjective answer. When you don't know the answer is just practice Krishna consciousness. How do we become? And you don't know the answer. Just chant Hare Krishna Prabhu. It'll happen. That's the standard. What do they call that? What's the name of that answer? The stock answer or whatever. John, my experience is humility is never going to develop until we develop the desire to want it. And we're not going to develop the desire to want it until humility becomes attractive. And having said that, if we reverse it, it must mean that we're attracted to pride, to being honored, and then therefore go down the process. Why do I need people to praise me? What's wrong with me? What's going on inside that for me to be happy, I need people to tell me, you are amazing, and give me applauses and pats on the back. And why do I need that? And as a devotee, when we ask that question, why do I need it? It has a psychological element, but it also, why do I need that when that is antagonistic to Krishna consciousness? And that does not make Krishna happy, but being humble makes him happy. So, you put all these things together. Being humble makes Krishna happy, and now I want something that will not make Krishna happy. What's going on with me here? And why do I need it after all these lifetimes and I still want it? Well, pride means imitation of Krishna. So that's a painful thought, but that's ultimately what it is. Pride is imitation of Krishna. So you can meditate on those things. And we end the class on time. The party line. Oh yeah. If I'm gonna, the party line, I was thinking more of like a stock answer kind of thing. There's another word for stock answer. Here's the proper answer. How do you become more humble? Chant Hare Krishna Prabhu. How do you become more renounced? Chant Hare Krishna Prabhu. What if you have this problem and you can't solve it? Chant Hare Krishna Prabhu. I can solve any problem. All I have to say is chant Hare Krishna Prabhu. But that's my personal realization, John, that Krishna consciousness is meant to awaken the desire to be a sadhu. So it awakens the desire to want to become free from envy, to be forgiving, to be humble, to become free from lust. Like when that becomes your aspiration, like your vision, you envision yourself as free of lust. You envision yourself as free of hatred, free of envy. You envision yourself as always respecting others, giving praise to others, and having absolutely no need for any of that for yourself. And that inspires you. That gets your blood boiling. Then you'll be able to do it. And then you'll say, well, how do you get to that practice? How do you get to that place? Hear about the humble devotees. That'll help you. Hear about them. See them. Learn about them. Follow in their footsteps. Get inspired by them. And then you realize humility is like such a great jewel, and pride is just like, as Raghunath, I think, Das Goswami said, like donkey urine. Humility is a jewel, and pride is donkey urine. And when you embed that in your heart, then you'll just becoming humble will be easy. Yeah, general answer. Another word I'm looking for. Maybe the word I'm looking for doesn't exist, which is why I can't find it. But I have to go now. We're having a meeting. And so every Tuesday I think I'm having meetings. Sometimes at 8. And then we won't have class. Okay. Hare Krishna to all of you. See you tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.